Today, I'm going to share with you something that's really, really personal. Today, we are also honoring the space in the reward puzzle that is ready, set, go. And I'd like to start off by sharing that it's not always about us starting that holds us back. It's about those times when we slip back into the familiar and comfort. I have really been, in the last few years, been honoring my space. I have been eating well and eating with intention. I've been exercising regularly. I've been loving my sleep. And I've also been waking up with clarity and energy. And that really feel good. But I was reminded in the last few days just how powerful that old programming is when it comes to the fore and is triggered. And I use the word loosely triggered, but we all understand what that means. So a few days ago, I was with a friend. A photograph was taken, and I was shown the photograph, and I looked at that Karolyn in the photograph with shock. You see, that Karolyn looked too good. She looked too healthy. She looked too strong. She looked too everything. And bam, it happened. Now, one thing I've learned in my life over the years is I stay away from mirrors. You see, the way I measure myself, actually mirrors and scales, but the way I measure myself is by how I feel. How I feel in my clothes. Are they comfy on me? Because we often wear the same outfits over and over, and they need to feel good. I also measure myself by how I feel when I wake up in the morning, how I feel at lunchtime during the day, how I'm feeling before I go to bed. Like, what is the status quo of Karolyn when she's on her own in her space? And it's very important for me to keep that equilibrium. But now I'd seen myself in that photograph, and boom, the old programming switched on. You see, when I was a child, and even as I say these words, the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Words like vanity, words like pride, words like you're full of yourself, words like you're better, you look like you believe you're better than everybody else, or you think you're so wonderful. And what happened for me is I grew a belief that those were not good. In our house, they were really evil. And so if I passed a maths test with good marks, it definitely wasn't me who'd passed that maths test. It was someone above. And if I failed the maths test, boy, did I get into trouble, because that certainly was me. So here's Karolyn seeing the mirror, or the photograph. And what happened is I immediately wanted to switch into that old familiar, that space where I felt like I was home and safe. And so what did I do? I started reverse engineering all the good that I'd done. I started binging TV programs, staying up late. I started eating poorly. I started not sleeping properly. I stopped hydrating myself, like, oh, do I have to walk around with that water bottle? And slowly my walks even started disappearing. And I noticed it, but I didn't stop and create an awareness immediately. Because you see, that old Karolyn, she didn't want to be visible. She wanted to stay small. She needed to stay striving to be better, because heaven forbid that she was happy, because then she had nothing to work for. So eventually I heard myself, saw myself sliding down the slope, and I stopped and made a pact with myself. And a pact in the Ready, Set, Go section is a promise you make to yourself, only yourself. And it's a promise that you're going to do X for Y amount of time. And so my promise to myself was simply this, because you see, I'd worked it out that it wasn't eating with intention that was the problem. I loved that. It wasn't my movement that was the problem. I loved moving. It wasn't my sleep that was actually the problem. I loved snuggling in my bed. It was a belief. It was the fear that was stopping me. You see, I had to stay small in order to be loved and accepted. And so noticing that fear and honoring it with compassion and love is what I needed to do. And hold it tight and say that it's okay, that I've got this. I'm Karolyn today. And the Karolyn today chooses to be seen, be visible, be joyful. And slowly I shifted back out of that old Carolyn into this space. And so that's what we do in the reward puzzle. We learn about ourselves. We learn about the patterns that put us where we were. We also don't blame any other individuals for creating those patterns or even yourself for allowing them in. You see, they're part of us, and it's all okay because we're all only doing the best that we can with what we know how. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in the reward puzzle. I promise you it's life-changing, it's loving, and it's compassionate.